Yeah.
Very bright these days.
I was really surprised to see you in church the other morning. It was good to see you.
Well, I should have worn clothes.
Yeah,
That was the part that I think I have
I
questions.
didn't know whether or not to tell you weren't dreaming
41
or not.
episodes.
I was going
Here
Don't
we
be
are.
expecting any eye patches
baptized.
on tonight's Jabber Jawn broadcast. That was just a phase I was told earlier today. But keep watching each week as it might come back. We are now trying the best look and sound for a stylish scarf that will be making its first appearance on the show. So many things to notice tonight. The first person who notices all 41 things to notice will be notified by mail a secret 40-second thing that we are almost certain no one will notice. Good luck! If you smell fresh cookies while watching the show, then make sure you go turn your oven off in a few minutes and enjoy the cookies. If you don't smell, don't feel bad. Just grab some store-bought cookies and enjoy. See ya in a bit.
I couldn't hear that.
Nailed it.
Three little frogs sitting on a log. One of them fell in. One frog said to the other frog, well, you better go get him. Two little frogs sitting on a log. One of them fell in. Last little frog, he sat and thought, good thing they can swim. Jabber Jawn. Jabber Jawn. Jabber Jawn. Jabber Jawn. Three little frogs sitting on a log. One burst into a grin. One frog said to the other frog, wonder what's got into him. Two little frogs sitting on a log. One laughed until he is red. Last little frog, he sat and thought, must have been something I said. Jabber Jawn. Jabber Jawn. Jabber Jawn. Jabber Jawn.
We're on? Oh my goodness, we're live. This is happening. It's all happening so fast. Hey everybody, welcome to Jabber Jawn. I'm Nathan. This is Kyle Hogg. This is Steve Moore.
Hey.
Welcome to the show. Jabber Jawn at your service. We got nothing pre-planned. We don't know what we're about to talk about, but you can inspire it from where you're watching, whether it's Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. Welcome to the show. We can see all of your chats on our Discord server. And it's good to be together again. We got Lex over there in the pilot seat. Don't eject. Hang with us. And we're flying over the world. There we are. We're in.
Okay.
Yep.
No, is that what the scarf's for? Like the 70s stewardess log?
This is the first element to my new gypsy jazz attire.
Oh, man.
I'm emulating my new hero, Django Reinhardt.
There you go.
And I bought this one because it was just called straight up Gypsy Jazz, and it's a 3-record collection of the father of Gypsy Jazz, Django Reinhardt. It's sort of fascinating, like bluegrass music that's very popular in this region was basically created by one man, Bill Monroe. He was the legendary beginnings of the whole genre. Now there's bluegrass festivals, so many bands, but it all came, and gypsy jazz has a very similar kind of lineage that it all started with Django Reinhardt.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. And his style, oh my gosh, that print is too. I was going to read part of this, but now I realize I cannot see that at all. I need my glasses in order to read that. But apparently he when he was 9 years old, he was already obviously a musical prodigy. There's stories of him and his gypsy caravan, the Romani nomadic folks. Apparently gypsy is now a politically incorrect term because it's used to disparage the Romani people. So now the word they use instead is manouche. Manouche.
Really?
Manouche. So a lot of times you'll see
O-U-T.
C-H-E, French. It means human being or man. That's what the
What a gypsy mean.
well. I guess
Does it
you know
mean anything?
the gypsies, as we refer to them, is what people called them. Manouche is what they called themselves.
I got you.
So,
Where are they derived from geographically?
well, it's definitely all around that region, but France, Germany. There's populations in
They
all
were
of them, and most of them.
They were like wandering tribes.
They were nomadic culture,
Gotcha.
and so Django, when he was like 9 years old, was already just like blowing people's minds, playing banjo, guitar, and stuff. Like this 9-year-old is a prodigy. Like he was already turning heads, and but then when he was like 19 or 20, according to the story on here, now I can't piece this story together, but one night he and his wife were in their I guess they lived in some kind of wagon or something, but he thought he saw a mouse. And he lit a candle to try to find the mouse. And as he was looking for the mouse, he started a fire. And it spread really quickly. He had to get his wife out of there and get everybody out. And he ended up being severely burned, like all over his body. They thought he was going to lose a leg. They saved the leg, but his hand, his left hand, it got so hot and the burns were so bad that these tendons seized. So he couldn't open these fingers like more than that. And this was like, a young prodigy musician whose hand was now like this. And so he really only had these two fingers working appropriately. And that infliction ended up defining the sound of gypsy jazz, because the way he had to reinvent his music to play it with two fingers was a whole. Now you got all these like completely abled people learning gypsy jazz and learning all these chord configurations, and the entire sound came from that thing that happened to his hand, which I find really fascinating. So there's a little picture of him. You can see in a lot of pictures, he has a cigarette hanging on his mouth and a silk scarf tied around his neck. And a lot of these just wearing ties. We had our first gypsy jazz band practice last night for my new project, new band that I'm calling Neuf Manouche. Neuf Manouche. It's N-E-U-F, French for new. So several reasons I love this band name. One is Neuf Manouche literally translates into a new man.
Wow.
And it keeps my acronym. Nathan Moore, NM, is a big part of my thing. It keeps my acronym. NM can be the logo for both. So it's basically gypsy jazz versions of Nathan Moore songs. So Neuf Manouche is a new man gypsy jazz project coming soon to a cafe near you, some after hours speakeasy in the Shenandoah Valley. If that exists, we're going to be playing there soon.
And if you can't find him at the cafes, check out the bistros. He might be there.
It might be right. It's going to be something like that.
Vineyards.
I think I covered all of that.
Yeah.
I wanted to give a little synopsis of Django and that word manouche. Any questions?
Well, who was in the band?
Well, his brother played guitar as well. It's funny because one thing that's been frustrating me, I keep doing these lessons online, and it's so hard for me to match my sound to the sound I hear coming back. And I finally realized in the last couple of days it's because every single one of them is playing this interesting guitar that I've never really seen in person. But all these pictures, and it's actually a special kind of guitar that was sort of designed for Django back in the day, but now a lot of companies make them. and it's exclusively for gypsy jazz style music. It's a whole guitar that has a tone to it that I was just sitting there one night. This guy just played like one chord, and I was like, why doesn't my guitar sound like that? And I was like zooming in on his fingers. I'm like, my fingers are right, and I'm hitting the strings right. It still doesn't sound like that tone. And then I realized that every video I watch, they're all playing this kind of guitar that has this really wide saddle, almost goes to the edges, and the strings are stretched up over it. So that's a whole thing. These gypsy jazz guitars for jazz manouche.
Then what was his time frame?
He was in the 30s, and was like running all around Europe during World War II, playing gypsy jazz, and survived somehow or another. I think he was sort of famous, but he was, basically he was just playing jazz, because that was, in the 30s and stuff. He was hearing all this jazz coming out of the States, and so a lot of they were just playing jazz, but playing it the way they played music, and ended up inventing a whole subgenre of it. It's so fascinating. He went on tour with Duke Ellington and stuff. Like, he was just a jazz man, but a Romani gypsy jazz man, playing it the way they play it. And a lot of their sound was they'd have 3 of those guitars. So I'm roundabout answering your question. I don't know a lot of the musicians. Lex might be able to tell us the upright bass player's name. I don't know. But his brother played rhythm guitar sitting beside him, and a lot of the sound from back then, because they didn't have amplification and stuff, they'd have 3 of those guitars just all chugging the same rhythm, and then Django just, and then this really famous, him and this violinist Stefan Grappelli became really sort of famous.
Well, that's not what I asked
You said who was in the band, right?
last night.
Oh, Rennie and Lex. Oh, yeah, us. Talking about Noof Manouche. Yeah, so far, Noof Manouche consists of Rennie DeVito and Lex Park.
Okay.
Wow.
But there are some other, there's a Queen City Porch Swingers. Have you ever heard them? They're sort of a Stanton. They sort of do gypsy jazz. It's basically Boxcar Speakeasies. There's a lot of acoustic swing groups. We're not really carving new territory out here. We're just sort of joining the party. But those are 2 bands and musicians that I don't know very well yet are in those bands, but I bet I'm about to get to know them a lot better.
Cool.
Because we're now playing
A
on
new
the same
adventure.
swing. Yeah, and Bob Russell. Do you know this guy? I was thinking there's a couple of them that I want to reach out to, and I don't know. Next week is my birthday falls on Jabber Jawn night.
Wow.
So I don't know if we should do anything with that or not.
I don't know. That's up to you.
But I don't know. Maybe we should hire one of these local, the Queen City Porch Swinger. Get a house band to come over here and just play some swing jazz or something.
All right, we're going to go to commercial. We'll be back in 10 minutes. Take them out, babe.
Exactly. While we eat cake, I don't know. Pull out all the stops for the birthday show next week. Just a mere 53. That's all I'll be. Wee little lad.
We should do like 12 episodes before then, so it'll be the 53rd episode on your...
Oh, that's true. Right. Well, we could break tonight's show up into little subdivisions. All right, here's time to start the second show of the night. Any questions? Any questions before we move on to the next topic?
I was going to ask you
Oh, I love it. Look at Scooby's GIF. Did you show that on the screen, Lex? Yep, there he is. No mistaking who that is.
Oh, God.
He's got the scarf, the cigarette. His 2 fingers are flying all over the place.
That's great.
That is awesome,
And this
Scooby.
is what you basically aspire to.
That's exactly. That's the new rung on the ladder I'm trying to ascend.
Look at that. Wasn't that Woody Allen movie sort of based on him? The one with Sean Penn, the gypsy guitar
what was
player?
that? Gypsy Rose or what was
No, it was Sean Penn you know,
Right.
played.
Oh my goodness.
I think it was sort of based, you know,
on Django.
yeah, not like a biography type thing, but loosely.
Was he playing guitar? Was he a guitar player?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let's just go watch that. Watch party. This is becoming a watch party.
I forget what it's called. It was, I mean, it's not his best movie by far, but it's pretty
Right.
good. Well, you
I
know,
would just be
love,
so into it
interest,
though right
yeah.
now.
I remember when it came out, they're like, "Why do you can't find anybody that even knows how to play guitar or play, you know, just,
All right.
you know, yeah, of course, camera angles, they have somebody else doing it, but
He wasn't playing Django literally, right? So he didn't have to do his hands.
you know, I
all
can't remember
weird.
the whole. I just remember that we went and saw it because, you know, we listened to the music, and it just basically, it might just be more like to give you a feel of who he was, you know, like an understanding of that time period and stuff.
Inspired by.
Yeah.
I was on one of my yarns the other night, and I stayed up so late that I was still up with the sun full in the sky the next morning, trying to wind down, watching some antenna TV, and Dragnet came on. That show is so funny. Like I love the story you've just seen is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. I was like, that was like the original version of that.
yeah.
Like, that's been memed so far at this point, but I'm like, this is the original right here. I'm watching, and those two actors, I've just never seen such stiff presence. I mean, they literally are just
They
like,
barely walk.
and then they stand there, just sort of hunched, like no poise, no charisma, nothing. And then they deliver every line just completely like, well, so what you're saying, I guess, is that, and like to imagine them like chasing a suspect I don't think they have do they have a gun? If they do, I can't imagine them using it. That seems like that would be too dynamic for their personality.
I checked in on one about a month ago. I was looking for something, and I saw the old Dragnet, so I just plugged one in.
Yeah.
And the first thing I noticed was what you mentioned. The other thing I noticed was they were getting a call out of robbery. They did a whole half-hour Dragnet show about a robbery. Now think, you know,
Right.
like somebody stole a typewriter.
Right.
And these two detectives are interviewing these housewives, and they're going to get to the bottom of this robbery.
Right.
On 9/11 in Los Angeles, California.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to do a show, do you do a robbery?
Man, that's some old school
And I thought
mentality
that,
right there. We
you
got to get
know,
to the bottom of
what
this
a-
missing typewriter.
What an innocent time.
What an innocent time. Right.
But it's so funny, too.
Nowadays, they would just get mad at you for calling about a typewriter.
Exactly.
It's so funny, too, because they never do any investigating. They never, like, look for clues or anything. Like you said, they sort of just walk in all stiff and bombard you with questions and leave. Like if you can't answer their questions, they have no idea how to solve the crime. When they take some fingerprints or look at the bloodstains, no, we're out of here. They just walk out.
Right. They didn't have any of the forensics stuff that we have today. None of that. Just like, I don't even know how they got to the bottom of anything.
I don't see how Harry Morgan ever became Colonel Potter.
Oh, that's why I know him. I was like, why do I know
I
that?
mean, he should not have been, he was a lieutenant.
He was great on MASH. That's
know,
what you're talking
yeah.
about, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He had so much life in MASH. Like, he had charisma, he had good delivery. Like, the deadpan nature of Dragnet, I'm just completely obsessed with now. I can't stop thinking about it.
I think he did it well.
The story you've seen was true.
It's funny because it started off as a radio show. If you listen to him on the radio, it's hilarious. Like
That makes a little more
I was listening
sense.
to it. It must have been like in the 50s or early 60s. But
Oh, yeah.
One of them, they were sent to I think it was a junior high, maybe it was a high school. Somebody was pushing pornography,
Pushing.
and they're
Pushing.
trying to like walk around and interview these kids. Where are they getting the pornography from? You know, like these two squares show up. Where'd you get that pornography from? You know, like,
Back then, too,
fuck
it was
you-
probably like a
fuck
black
you,
and
Connor,
white.
get out of here.
It was probably like a black and white of someone in a one-piece bathing suit back then. Pushing the pornography. Psst.
But it's Jack Webb. He does it. You know, he must have been. I mean, he was behind a lot of that stuff. You know, like writing it and creating the
yeah.
whole thing.
Jack Webb.
He's the guy, the voice that does that.
Dragnet.
He's the one that says the story you've seen is true. I love those classic little voiceover things. Like Twilight Zone's a famous one, but there's just something about it. But that voice. But I can't imagine those two guys like giving chase. Like if they found a suspect and the suspect ran, it'd be like Friday the 13th or whatever, like where Jason's just walking slowly but as fast as you run, like he's still right behind you somehow. Like I feel like Dragnet would be like that. Like I just can't imagine them like breaking a sweat or like chasing anybody. They would just walk nonchalantly and eventually corner them and then go into a long monologue about how they lost their way.
Don't run. We just want to ask you a few
That's
questions.
the problem with the world today. Kids like you used to have a chance. I don't know. It's some really good stuff. It's classic.
I can't think of there's another police show that came out in the 70s. Oh my God, I can't think of the guy's name.
Starsky and Hutch.
No, it was around that
Chips.
not Ernest. Who's like an actor like Ernest Borgnine?
You don't think? Oh,
He was a New York cop.
in the heat of the night.
Kojak.
Kojak.
Conrad.
Are we related to Kojak?
Not that I know of.
I feel like Eric and Travis said that we were.
Well,
Like
they
maybe
might
through
be.
Buddy's
they were-
side of the family, or like
they-
it would
they
be
are
like
Greek.
marriages.
He was Greek.
People
Ah.
people always ask me that about the show. They're like, "Who do you do the show with?" I say, "Are they related to Kojak?"
That's the word on
I
the
was like,
street.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I guess we are.
Long line of stars.
I'll take that.
This is in our blood to be in front of the camera like this.
I used to work with this when I worked at a camera store, and there was like 7 branch stores, and we went to the one branch store, and he had a picture of Beretta, Robert, whatever that guy's name was.
Robert Blake.
Yeah, Robert Blake. It was a signed picture of Robert
Good
Blake
one.
up there. And I was like, where'd you get that from? He goes, he's married to my mother-in-law or something. I was like,
Oh, my goodness.
some weird thing. I was like, you actually related to him? He's like, yeah. I was like, I guess he just sends everybody who's in the family gets an autographed picture. of
Sure.
him.
Do you remember the show you were trying to think of?
No, gosh, the guy, I can't think of, if I could think of the actor.
So many cop shows were teams. Starsky and Hutch.
Oh yeah.
Like the
Well, if you're talking,
Miami
if you're
Vice.
doing a monologue, there's, for a policeman walking around talking to himself, that,
right, that wouldn't be
doesn't really work.
Kojak was a lone wolf.
Yeah.
They probably
You
teamed
didn't
him
want
up
to get
with
into
people.
like an elevator with him. He'd just talk your ear off.
Have you ever seen the clip of Norm Macdonald talking to Seinfeld, explaining one of like the Kojak scene?
I don't know.
It's on the internet. It's hilarious. He's acting like Kojak, and whatever Kojak's helper's name was. He comes back and goes, I interviewed the mother. Her daughter was an angel. She was murdered and all this stuff. Kojak said, she's a whore. Like just, like I don't have time for this pity party for this murdered woman. She was a whore.
Oh my God, that was there was a puritanical part of Kojak? He was like a judging moralist? What is going on with that?
Oh,
I never watched, I feel like I watched Kojak when I was a kid, but I don't remember it at all.
I don't have a good, much
The lollipop is all I got.
Yeah, it wasn't very memorable to me either.
Telly Savalas.
The character wasn't that ingratiating to you.
Right, yeah,
anyway.
I wonder what the appeal was there, because it was pretty popular for a
It was
second.
cool. I don't know about the episodes. I don't know how well written they were or anything to compare them, but
I bet there's an interesting story there, how Telly Savalas finds himself at that opportunity and seizes it. I can't imagine. I don't remember him ever being in a movie. I mean, I'm sure he tried, but he was not a star on any other right. But that show, Kojak, he was in it like a villain or something.
I've got a couple of Kojak books. You want to borrow them to read?
Kojak book? What is that?
They wrote some novels with Kojak.
Did they come first?
No, and it's horrible reading them because I'm sure it's regular cop talk back then, but racist and sexist, like get him in the car, like it's sort of shocking. Like
Whoa.
Well, let's
Good
go
old-
ahead.
good
If
old
you don't have
Coach.
anything else going on in your head, so let's go ahead and get the birds
Let's
out of the way.
bird. Bird is a
Oh,
word.
I was riding with somebody yesterday, and that song came on. I busted out laughing.
Did you turn it up?
I said, "Oh my God, this is Mr. Moore's least favorite song."
You know what? One time I was on my way downtown Stanton, and the song came on the radio. I think it was Creedence Clearwater Revival. This is a quickie. And just you talking about the car radio. And it was a beautiful day. It was like a spring day. It had been cold, and it was finally thawing, and it was suddenly just nice, beautiful day, and this great song came on the radio. And I was like, I conscientiously was like, you know what? I need to share this with the world. So I cut up the radio really loud, rolled down all the windows of the car as I'm driving through downtown Stanton, and I was doing it on purpose. I was like, it's a beautiful day. This is going to make people happy. And because I don't know which song it was. But by the time I got to the end of Beverly down there, I see the lights behind me. I got in trouble for that. I got pulled over for noise pollution.
Wow.
Yep.
911, I hear CCR.
It was two dudes that just lectured me in monotone diatribe about the failings of society. Yeah.
Well, they real stiff.
But no,
like
then they let me go with a warning.
Just the facts, Mr. Moore. We don't want anything else from you. Just the facts.
if you can explain the crime, you're free to go.
It was so funny because I wasn't really in an oblivious state. I was like, I very intentionally rolled down the windows and
They
I
should have
wanted
prosecuted,
to.
in other words.
So how far
They
you
had me
gone?
dead to
Like a couple
rights.
of blocks?
Yeah, just by the time I got to the end of downtown Stanton, I was getting pulled over.
God, so they were hot on it.
They were all over
They
me.
didn't even need to take any phone calls.
Did you at least get to plead your case?
I don't even remember the exchange at all, but I'm sure I was just like, oh, I did that on purpose. It was a great song. I just wanted to share it with the sidewalk.
Sure, that resonated
Everybody
well.
needs a theme song. So yeah, back to the business at hand.
The bird?
Yeah, well, from what I hear, you brought more than one bird. with you
Yeah, I
today.
thought I'd just go ahead and end that family and send them on their way. They're both of the same group that we have already studied a couple times because we've already done the flicker and the pileated woodpecker, and now we're going to talk about the two others that are.
Oh, they're both woodpeckers?
They're both
Oh, I didn't know
woodpeckers.
that.
I didn't realize that either.
Now, one of them has a funny name that I've heard when I was a little kid, and I didn't think they were real, but they really are out there, and it's the yellow-bellied sapsucker.
Yellow-bellied sap sucker.
I think in the 4th grade somebody called me that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I've been called that myself.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound very nice.
You ever been called a yellow-bellied sapsucker?
I think Kojak used to say it on the show. Didn't he?
Right, that was his.
Only for the hard cases, the robberies.
We gotta find this yellow belly. We gotta find this yellow belly sapsucker.
Exactly.
Clean up the streets.
You're a yellow-bellied sapsucker.
Sticks his little lollipop back in his mouth. That guy is tough. That was like early 70s tough.
So the yellow-bellied sapsucker is about the size of a robin. It's a typical woodpecker, and does all those woodpecker things we talked about with absorbing the blow and he has the tongue.
Wait, so how's that work again? Their cranium has like a space or something?
Yeah, there's a bulbous thing all around it, like an air pocket, like a helmet. It wears a helmet.
But it's not just an air pocket, right? Because then it would just rattle around.
Well, it's not. It's cushion. It's like a pill. It's like having a balloon blown up in there. So
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, absorbs it that way. So
So is that the That's a yellow-bellied sapsucker you're showing the show right now? No, I don't see a yellow belly.
they don't have much of a yellow belly. There's a little yellow stripe on the side.
Lies, fake news.
Yeah, it's another one of those the sapsucker parts for real. But the yellow bellied again, the guy that named them didn't have very good eyesight. I don't think. But there's just a trace of yellow. The red bellied even worse. I'll get to that in a minute. But the yellow-bellied, they're a black and white, and they have the red cockade, just like a lot of the
Cockade?
yeah, the head that comes by, the little top knot,
You've always got a new word for
Yeah,
it.
cockade.
yeah.
Your
Well,
cockade's looking good today.
I might have made that one up too. I don't know, but
Yeah, that's the problem with these is learning stuff when your teacher's just making shit up.
it's all that Latin that I keep just sticking things together and making up words. I guess the kind of thing we do here in the South.
Right. It's awesome.
Yeah, we just make stuff up. Hope you catch it. But he does all the woodpecker things. The interesting thing about him is that last name, the sapsucker.
The sapsucker.
More than any of the other woodpeckers, he will. And I remember as a kid seeing these in the apple orchards where I used to roam in Hillcrest. But you could see these just rectangular or even sometimes circles, but different, just a line of holes across the tree, the bark.
Right, yeah.
If you've ever seen that. That's a yellow-bellied sapsucker, and they go across and they peck holes into that precambium so if there's any juices running, some of it runs out. We call it sap, and at a certain time in the fall, the sap of the maple trees and the maple sugar and everything, that's from the it rising or flowing through there and being spicketed out. But everything has a fluid, even if it's not that much. Sap is just a general term for the liquid. Mm-hmm. So two things happen there. One is he does sip on that sap, and it has the sugar.
He pokes a little hole in it and sucks the sap out.
Yeah. Or it seeps out and he drinks it.
Yeah, it's not as sucking.
Yeah. It's close enough. There's a combination going on. But the other thing that happens, though, is he'll leave, and periodically he goes back, and any insects that are attracted to that sap get caught in it. And he eats, it's like a buffet for the insects, and he comes back and feeds on the insects.
Interesting.
So there's two things happening.
So he's invented a better mousetrap.
Yeah, that's clever.
Yeah, he worked that out where he got his protein and his sugar. It's the beginning of dessert of well, he eats the sugar first, but he doesn't. Never mind. So, any questions about yellow-bellied sapsuckers? They're very uncommon. Well, they're uncommon. They're not rare, but you don't see them too much. And they occasionally will come to a feeder, but not too often. And they're not...
I guess woodpeckers in general don't visit feeders that much, right?
No, it's not normal. They will eat the sunflower seeds, some of them. But they do the same thing. Other birds will grab the seed, take it to a branch, and then peck it open. Yeah. They can do that. But they don't eat seeds normally, so... Unless you have sunflower seeds, you're not going to get many woodpeckers. Mm-hmm. But they are on the east coast of the United States, and they pretty much stay there all winter and all year. Not migratory, but they've been moving north, and that might be with
the climate change.
The climate change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's getting warmer up there, so there's lots of species of birds that are moving north like that. So,
now, if you had given me 100 guesses of what species that bird is, I would have never guessed woodpecker, just from the name.
From the name, yeah, it's interesting, yeah. In all other ways, it's a typical woodpecker, but it's just developed that habit, and part of that's it's in woods that have trees that are. Lend themselves to that activity.
It's so fascinating that thousands and thousands of years ago, this certain bird learned this trick of drilling these holes for the sap. And then eventually that wisdom became genetically encoded.
It's kind of like Django Reinhardt.
Maybe. yeah.
You just don't know how it goes from one person or small group to something they all know how to do and are born with.
Right.
Just
right.
like the migration thing. It's just it's hard to know how that could chemically be transmitted
Right.
to be a body of knowledge of chemicals.
It's so interesting.
That's never really has been explained.
Because I mean, like if you have like a bird that builds a certain kind of nest, and that blueprint for that nest is passed down genetically, but back in the time of that species origin, there had to have been like the first bird that built the nest that way, because I mean, if you microcosm the whole evolution from like amoebas or whatever, like at a certain point, I don't know, it's just so.
Or maybe they just made it all different, and one really smart bird said, "This is the one. All right, everybody, this is the one."
But how does genetics decide, like?
Because then he starts popping out babies after he's made the decision.
Well,
Oh man.
I mean, part of it is genetic in terms of just the biological idea of passing on the gene itself. And then one of the things I think you're looking at is how does that gene say that?
Mm-hmm.
How do you? And that's the part I don't have an answer to. But the genetic part of, in other words, the one that works the best for, he is more likely to be successful.
Right.
And so if
That
it
makes
has
certain.
an advantage, and that's where we call natural selection in the definition of evolution. That's what's happening. So it does make sense that things would tend to move toward what would work the best.
Right.
And so we're continually changing, and what works in one level doesn't work in another. Whereas for thousands of years, just killing people was really effective.
Mm-hmm.
We are
We were
getting
talking about that last night.
we are getting to the point where we might see that that's self-destructive.
I keep on, I have moments of that hopeful idea, but then you look at the world today and holy moly, just this Ukraine war is as bloody and devastating as any war ever has been.
One of the ways that people measure success of a species is the number of individuals. So if you looked at that statistic alone, human beings are doing quite well.
Yeah, we're doing great.
The problem is that's the problem.
Right.
There are too many people on this planet. It's just like an aquarium, You put too many fish in there, they're all going to die.
Right.
And that's what we're doing. We
Yeah.
are overloaded with people. And
it's so hard to find that balance, because if if there's no growth, it's dying and stagnant.
Oh,
If it's
exactly.
overgrowth, then
Yeah.
it kills itself by unsustainability. I feel like that math ripples through all kinds of aspects of life.
Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. It's a very difficult thing to control because you have lots of different forces working there.
Mm-hmm.
But something is going to happen to reduce these numbers.
Right.
And then, whether it be a new...
Well, our overlords have been devising schemes to try to
Exactly.
help us with that.
I just read somewhere,
I'm afraid you're right.
who knows if this is true or not, but the French during World War I lost more citizens or soldiers than America has in every war it's ever fought in.
Wow.
Wow.
Just just so many men were just wiped out during that war.
That's an amazing number.
Yeah.
Because you must be talking about the Civil War, too.
Yeah, they said, everything we've been involved in.
When you think of the Civil War and everybody that died there was an American, that's crazy.
Crazy numbers in that war, too.
Yeah.
And that was back in the old days where Lex and I were just talking last night about just how horrifically violent human history was for thousands and thousands of years, but all the way like evolving up to the way they used to fight the wars with just two armies marching at each other in an open field.
Right.
And whoever walked away, I mean, it was uncivilized to like hide behind a rock or so. Like that was cheating. Like you weren't allowed to. The whole idea of like people like hiding in the woods or whatever was like uncivilized.
Yeah.
Like, and they would just march in formation, just like. It's just so unbelievable. It's amazing.
It really
And
is.
how people, often think, would I get caught up in it and do it, or would I just be so scared and just lay down? But like how the armies would just send wave after, like say you were here, you had the defenses here, and they would just send wave after wave of men. to
Right,
try to-
right.
So they're just like, all right, we've already sent 4 waves that didn't work. You're the 5th wave, and how guys don't just turn around and run the other way?
Man.
Like, oh my gosh, to take that, like, all right, here we go. Just, oh, it gives me the chills even thinking about it.
Unfathomable. All right, we're stealing the thunder from this other bird, though.
Oh, can I ask one more question before I forget?
Sure.
What did you say when the sap comes from the ground in the tree?
What do you mean?
You said like when they poke the holes, liquid comes down, but the sap, you said, the honey or something, you said comes up.
Well,
Or did I misunderstand you?
no, the sap is running. I might get this wrong. I'm not. I think the sap is running up the tree in the fall.
That's
To
what you
feed the
said.
tree.
Wow.
The food has been made in the leaves, and then the energy goes down and is stored in the root system.
I do know that we
Good grief, that's so cool.
our maple trees aren't as good for syrup as the northern ones because the cold. I don't know what that means. I was just reading an old book about making maple syrup, and they're like,
Yeah.
I was like, we got maple trees. And I was
Right.
But then the little tidbit I read is that our trees don't produce as much sap because it doesn't get as cold.
Right.
As,
The maples, yeah, that makes sense over in, the west or up in the higher up the mountains,
I
higher
wonder what the
altitude.
sap is.
It's
it's
just
the
the
blood.
it's the food and water and liquid for the tree to live on during the living part of the tree.
It's just,
Just like-
endlessly fascinating, isn't it?
Almost like blood, I guess. Blood of the tree.
The idea that maple syrup I mean, if we had good trees, so what is we have like a syrup festival in Dayton or something, right? Is that
Well-
maple?
Maple syrup festivals in Highland County.
Right, near here though, right? Like it's a Virginia thing?
Yeah, in Highland County. Dayton's not in Highland
Right,
County.
I forget.
Yeah, never mind.
But I was just sort of contradicting myself because we have a festival that celebrates
Yeah,
syrup.
that's what
so
I'm
our-
saying. You say your maples here. We're in the valley. We have a warmer climate
Oh.
than up in the mountains. You get a whole different ecosystem up there
Oh, even
because
in
of the
Virginia.
altitude.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the Appalachian chain has this whole thing of animals and plants that grow right on that chain because of the altitude and the temperature. So in essence, if you go west from here, you can get the same as if you go 300 miles north and get up into the
I gotcha.
Adirondacks. So, there are Arctic hare over there.
What?
You need to get your own show.
Arctic hare exists.
In Virginia.
Maybe it's not an Arctic hare. It might
He
be
might just be making that up.
No,
kids.
that's
Yeah,
a snowshoe.
Keep that in
The
mind.
snowshoe hare.
Really?
Yeah,
And
it was-
the Arctic hare is the one with the Caucasian. Remember?
Oh, that was wrong. Google cockade somebody. I
Yeah,
don't
we
know.
better check
Yeah,
this
I don't
out.
know what we might be getting into. Bad term. Just the facts, man.
All right, so we knocked out the yellow-bellied sapsucker.
Oh, you want to go to the other
And
bird?
now we have-
The other bird is the one I thought I'd throw him in just because he does come to your bird feeder a lot.
But he's a woodpecker.
He's a woodpecker, but he likes, if you got sunflower seeds, he likes sunflower seeds, and he'll come and grab them. Now, he is a red-bellied woodpecker. He is a whitish, grayish
Red-bellied.
undercolor. Yeah, but you won't see any red belly. There's just a little trace of red. You can barely
Another
see.
nearsighted bird watcher named another.
Yeah. I don't
Wait
know
a
what is
second.
wrong
Is
with
that
these people.
is that one right there?
Yeah. That's the one you see right around here at bird feeders. All my feeder friends know exactly who I'm talking about.
Now I've been practicing my bird calling imitations. I believe this native Virginian bird sounds like this. Ha 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 ha.
God. Oh, did we reach a new
I just
low?
snorted.
I think we did. I think that's the horriblest thing I've ever
All right.
heard you say.
That's not it.
That was terrible. If you, yeah, this spontaneous show stuff, that's embarrassing.
It's time for it's time for another gypsy jazz song for the band. Here we go.
I nailed it. Gosh. Tough crowd. It's a tough room.
Do you walk around practicing that? There's like Catherine, like, oh my God, stop!
That's one you
They
really
flock
should
to the back porch.
You really should have practiced that.
People over at the restaurant looking out. Y'all hear that? Y'all hear
Oh
that?
Lord, that was horrible. Red-bellied woodpecker is another. He's a fairly common. I say he's common simply because if you have a bird feeder, he will come and you'll see him. Otherwise, he's going to be up in the woods doing his thing, just like the yellow-bellied sapsuckers are up in the deeper woods, so you just don't. Not many people are going to see them, but they're probably the same number as there have been. And the red-bellied he does like the denser forest, and he'll be around cities because he likes the trees that are planted around here. But
It looks like. Does it look like a downy? Or I'm trying to think of
the downy is black and white with the red top
Okay,
knot,
that's not the one I'm
and it's a
thinking
lot
of.
smaller. There's a hairy that's
It is so frustrating. That's called a red-bellied woodpecker
it really
because it has such distinctive markings. It's got the red cockade. It's got the black and white. I mean, it should have been like a polka-dotted woodpecker would be a good one.
I don't know. Or maybe not even
Oh, there's one at a feeder.
use colors.
Yeah, if I tried to like be out in the woods with my family and be like, guys, that's a red-bellied woodpecker, they'd laugh
They'd be
at
like,
me.
Dad, quit
Yeah,
making
exactly.
stuff
Don't
up.
know
He's
anything."
lying again. Don't listen to
Yeah,
him.
exactly. They do that.
Dad jokes suck.
So if the yellow-bellied was like getting the water or the moisture, would another woodpecker like a red-bellied go drink that moisture too? Or they're not interested in it?
They're not trained in that.
Okay.
If they happened on it, they probably would taste it, and yeah, but they're not. They don't see their diet that way.
Right, right,
That's not how they get their nutrition.
right.
In other words, they have an imprint just like everything else of what they feed on, because their body's adapted to eat on that. So, since they are adapted to create that, just to come on it like that, they might. But you don't. In other words, you don't see a lot of other birds. It's a good question.
Right.
You don't see a whole lot of other birds attracted to it. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think songbirds and stuff can't even hang on the tree like that. So I don't think that's that popular. And of course, certain insects are going to go there, just like they would for any sugary thing.
Mm-hmm. Fall
so-
into the trap.
And so the normal woodpecker, like sort of like a dead tree, it just has insects and stuff. And I guess the yellow-bellied has to be a living tree.
It's a good point. That's an excellent point. Now the sapsucker will do the other stuff too. He does
okay.
feed. He doesn't just feed on that.
Okay.
So he's out hunting in dead trees too.
Right,
so
okay.
doesn't really. But you're right. That's a good point that the red-bellied is not interested in living trees because he was looking for the dead bark to pull
Right.
apart and get the grubs out and things.
Man,
And they both do
I'm
create
on
their
this
own
shit.
holes.
Was my joke accurate? Did you get my joke?
Which one?
My woodpecker call?
Well, I got the woodpecker call. Was it accurate? No.
So
No, that woodpecker call is a lot more like the pileated woodpecker.
So
that
I guess my question is, what kind of woodpecker was Woody Woodpecker?
pileated.
He was pileated.
Yeah. But, you know, he was a special woodpecker.
Right.
He wasn't a normal
Right.
run-of-the-mill woodpecker. He was special.
So they nest the same as.
Yep. Yeah, they dig. They'll peck a hole in dead tree and use it over and again, and usually 5 or 6 eggs and one family a year. And
I know this is a kid's show, but maybe there's a way of. I'm trying to picture the fornication.
yeah,
He's trying to get you to explain what a pecker is.
Speaking of peckers, just exactly how do these? I don't know how
what
to
is
put
it?
this.
I mean,
Do they do it in flight?
I mean, do they have real peckers or woodpeckers? You got to know when you get into something like that.
Do birds mate in flight?
Some do.
Some do.
It does
Do you
happen.
know of one that does exclusively? Or
Well, I
anything?
used to know a stewardess there back in '78, and and you know those bathrooms are awful small. So it was quite a I don't
Mile High Club.
I don't like to brag, so I'm going to change the subject. Oh Lord, I'm so embarrassed about that. That I said just what I just said. I made all that.
Not the.
No, I didn't do any of that. I was just kidding.
He used to check in for his flight before he had ID. He was put the yellow-bellied sapsuckers here.
Here we go again. Oh Lord.
Well, you can answer that question after the show if need be.
Well,
But is there anything interesting based on the question I asked that you would be
you know,
appropriate to share?
I don't hear much about them spending a lot of time in the actual act. It seems like
I've never seen it.
All they do is, well, you've seen it if you go to the duck pond. You know,
I've never seen it there.
they just, all they do. There's not all his area, area that is exposed, that he has sperm, whatever shape it is. I don't know that much about it, but all it has to do is touch into that area, and it just transmits. You know, in other words, it's boing, it's hit and miss, and there's very little before and after or during.
Right.
I think a whole lot of it's in their heads. I think they're just making a lot of it up to enjoy it that much.
Duck brag. You see me out there on the pond.
Oh, you'll see them strut for a month or two afterward. But it's all talk. It's self-image. It's important.
Yeah.
People can't even describe what my thing that makes sperm looks like. It's so cool. Words can't describe it.
It's just between me and her. Okay.
Me and my little ugly duckling.
It grows into a swan.
That's right.
But it works real good. Boom. I just did it again. You didn't even see it. That's how fast it was.
Oh man.
You might want to change your shoes when you get home.
All right. Somebody take us somewhere.
Well, there you go.
Are we through with the bird?
We did the
Any
bird.
I don't know.
About the
Any
bird?
question there? Oh, mow. The red-bellied woodpecker is wearing a super cool trench coat, says Mark Shue. Good to see you, buddy.
All right. Very good.
And then he asks, so Woody Woodpecker was on the spectrum?
Yes, he was. That's exactly right.
So, good to see you, buddy.
He's all
Mile High Club.
I can't remember. What did Woody Woodpecker do for a cartoon?
I'm trying to remember that, too. Was he
What did he
did he have
do?
a foe?
Like what?
Did he have an enemy?
What were
Was
the
that
stories
Elmer
about?
Fudd? No. Elmer Fudd was Bugs
He
Bunny.
was a cartoon, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Well,
what kind of hijinks did Woody Woodpecker get into? What was his game?
Did he have like a
I
house?
think he
or-
was just like the court jester. He was a jokester.
Just pranking people?
I think well, I don't know. He did
I have no
adventures,
memory of it.
but a character. He was just a character in a lot of the different stories.
But what was the premise of the cartoon?
I'm not so sure I know either.
Everybody knows the name, but nobody knows who it
I think he
is.
quickly became a logo and didn't do a lot of his. I don't know. We'll have to
Right.
Google. Woody
Buzz Buzzard was his main villain.
Oh, Buzz Buzzard.
Oh,
Oh, he looks
man.
familiar. I remember that dude. Right. Was Buzz Buzzard trying to kill him?
Of course.
Right. I mean,
I was thinking about you a couple nights ago. They had a picture of two vultures eating something on the side of the road, and there's another bird sitting beside it saying the first responders are here.
Well, that's funny.
well, speaking of pranks, we were going to do. It's for the best that we didn't do it, but we were going to do a pretty cruel prank to you two today.
Oh no!
Until we found out it was highly illegal.
Ooh.
If we had done this prank, Lex and I probably would have been in prison by the end of the night.
Wow,
So it's a good
that's
thing we didn't do
exciting.
it.
By the end of the night, it's like not even like a trial. You just go right to the.
Straight to the Hooskow.
Oh, my
yeah, I
God.
mean, this is like
Actually, maybe even like Guantanamo Bay or something.
it's like
Oh, my
treason level.
gosh.
Yeah, it's like national security concerns.
Oh,
Yeah.
So can you even talk about it?
Yeah, I think it'd be safe to talk about it. But
don't try-
it would
kids,
have been
don't try
it would
this
have
at
been
home.
really cruel. But in my mischievous mind, I was like, oh my god, this is going to be so fun. And Lex was into it, and then Corey had to step in and be like, guys, that is highly illegal. But we are going to simulate one of those national alerts, and it was going to be a nuclear strike.
Oh my gosh!
That incoming nuclear missiles were coming our way. In the middle of the show, we were going to try to play it off completely naturally and just field y'all's reactions to this turn of events. But apparently, playing that sound or broadcasting that sound is highly illegal.
as it should be.
It does make sense when you think it through.
Yeah, just think of the ratings we would get though. When people,
I was like Orson Welles over here with my War of the
exactly, that's
Worlds.
exactly you. Yeah,
Part of it.
you could upset 72 people.
So, do you think we would have been able to convince you that was real?
I think I would have been needing more data or looking for more data.
Is that what you think your first I mean, neither of your phones would have done it. So that would have been your first clue that something was amiss.
I would have doubted that immediately. You
I-
really had to have made it realistic down
Right.
here.
I was in
And
the
you'd
class
have had to
where
have
they-
it on more than one phone.
Right,
too.
that would have been hard to pull
Yeah.
off.
I was in the painting thing yesterday when the alarm went off, and
Right.
not everybody's went off at the same time. It was like 10
Really?
minutes.
Ah, see, based on that, you
Yeah.
would have thought maybe.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Right.
Like I'd have been waiting. Like, I'd have been like, "Why hadn't told me anything yet?"
Huh.
Did you have something like your beard would start falling off, like radiation type stuff? Did you have it, was it had it gone that far? Catherine comes down on fire, waving her arms. "Ah!"
Yeah. Corey went ahead and dumped water on that inspiring fire there
Well, thank
pretty
you,
early.
Corey.
And
Thank
we
you.
didn't get to.
The voice of
We
reason.
appreciate that.
Thank God there's a Corey around sometimes.
Nice.
So if
keep you out of
if you
jail.
did believe, if we did sell it really well to the point that you believed it, what do you imagine would be your reaction? Would we continue with the show? Would we if you believed?
Well, I think it depends on how much longer we had, but I think we would probably stay and talk.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where are you going to go? What are you going to do?
I'd have come like a duck.
Wait a second. Well, we wouldn't know the difference, so he probably did anyway. As far as I'm concerned.
when you just said something was against the law, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, cut away. Commercial.
I mean, I would have found it hard to believe if you would have had it been.
So y'all probably would have focused just on like me,
well,
maybe lying.
I would have looked to see like how are y'all acting? Like if you just totally ignored us and ran off, then I would think this might be real. If you just sat here looking at us and
Where would I run off to?
to go outside,
To look up?
to get in your truck,
He's gone. He is gone.
crank up some CCR.
He left his wife. He left his show. He's just
CCR driving down the main street. The world's ending. The world's ending. Bam, Mary, keep on.
I'm sorry.
trailed by 10 cop cars for noise pollution.
The world's ending, coppers.
Don't you get it?
Look at my beard falling
Yeah,
out.
I'd just be sitting here going, oh, God, maybe it is.
Gene, I think we're going to have to tase him. God darn.
Oh, my God.
Oh, you shouldn't have hit him that high. Damn, I think he hit a
He's
blood
coming
vessel.
like a duck.
Stanton Man's prank goes wrong.
Terribly wrong. It's terribly wrong. Woo.
Oh, man.
He ended up over at the Sap Festival in the Highland County. That's where I'd go. I want to go out on a bag at the Highland County Sap Festival.
The Sap Festival.
I hear their bird is a sapsucker.
Oh, God. Now, was this the first prank you've thought, or you've always trying to think of pranks to get us?
Well, I was inspired by that big test we all... Did yours work yesterday? Did you get your alert?
I got a very short alert. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, after that happened, we were all talking about it on our Wordlers text message group or whatever, and I was like, oh, tomorrow during the show, I should set that off and just see how Dad and Kyle react. And then Lex was like, oh, I'm in. And then, like...
Okay, that is good to know, Lex.
Have you,
Oh, buddy.
have you ever seen the episode of The Office where he does the fake
right.
firearm?
Oh, wait, I don't know.
Nice to
And
know
it's like-
where on
they
the
just
shelf
start
you
going
want to put a new
crazy.
book.
The
you
whole
know?
office is like just one of them gets up in the ceiling.
Wait, Michael sets off a fake firearm?
Not Michael's. I can't think of their names. The guy with the parted hair. Oh my God! Why can't I think of their names now?
Did you watch that show, The Office?
No. Never got into it.
It's pretty great. You ever watch the original?
No, I've heard it's even funnier than this one.
It's brilliant. You know,
It's supposed to be coming back.
I like Ricky Gervais. So, what are your thoughts on what you would do if there was a nuclear war?
You mean like we were gonna die in like at day, or like just could be?
We could do that one.
God, what would I do?
That's a great question.
I'd probably just sit and think about it. The world would end before I ever did anything, before I made a decision.
You
How
would
much
just
time
be-
do I have left? You're basically down to minutes now.
All right, let's do that one. Like you have 2 hours till the bomb hits. What do you do with that 2 hours?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I can put myself really in that place. I mean, I'd like to think I probably wouldn't do much of anything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what, if I was younger, I'd have things to take care of, but
Right.
I would call a few people and say goodbye and hope we go to the same place, and
Mm-hmm.
all that kind of stuff. So I'd take care of that emotional business with loved ones.
So if we were here and we got the national alert, incoming nuclear missile, 2 hours away or whatever, do you think you would go home? Would you stay here?
I'd go home.
You go home,
I'd go
but
home.
you'd be alone there.
I don't mind that. I've been alone
So
most
you
of
could
my
probably
life.
you go home and just start calling people.
Yeah. I mean, in 2 hours, you can't go to all of them, so you just gotta. I mean, I could do that here too. I wouldn't have to go home,
Right.
but just, depending on the mood I was in, how I took it, I'd probably want to be. Your home is more than just a place you live. It's part of who you are, and if you're there long enough, and that's what I found when I was in the hospital. I loved being home. I love my home.
Right.
And most people do. I'm not unusual that way. And so when you take them out of the home, and we all know that have had to deal with that with a loved one. It's just a hard thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then to eat up all their savings in a place they don't even want to be anymore.
Right.
That's about as sad as it gets.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how I got there,
That's fine.
but
So what would you do?
See, I was thinking too. If you told us that we knew for real, I think I'd go home too. I don't know why. I would just,
Yeah.
or maybe I would just go.
I mean, there
I'd
would
go
be a
walk
time in my life
downtown
where
or
I'd want to be
something.
hugging all my family. I'm just not there right now.
Mm-hmm.
They should be hugging each other
Mm-hmm.
and know that I'm hugging them all over.
I think I would probably get right into. I guess the first thing I would want to do is know as much as possible. Be Googling, watching the news, listen to the radio, and then trying to survive it, even against all odds, whatever. Taping up the windows with putting plastic over all the windows, getting Kether and everybody down here in the basement, and figuring out where we should be down here, and bringing provisions down. Getting
So the thing you
Exited
got
us out the door. You sure you want to leave? Goodbye, because I'm sealing this up.
you want to make sure how your posture is, like those people in Pompeii.
right.
You don't want to be holding your duck.
You want to be like this. Wait, what did I miss?
Okay.
Wait, what did I miss? I was assuming my posture. I missed it.
But,
Yeah, there'd be a lot of phone calls, but it would be like 9/11. Probably the phones would just be like so jammed.
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to call somebody, and somebody else is trying to call them. You can't get through to anybody. Lines going. Gosh, I don't know what I would do.
Well, I would probably
I'd probably
spend
start
some time
writing
trying to talk to God too. Just
Get
tell-
right. Get
just
right.
Tell
with the
him
Lord.
that what can we do here?
Right.
Ask him to fix it.
Right.
I mean, he doesn't step in as often as I think he should.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, didn't this happen in Hawaii last year? Wasn't it Hawaii where the alarms
They
went
had
off?
a false alarm of
Yeah.
And they were calling. People were calling family and friends.
Yeah.
What's at the end? They're bombing us.
Yeah, Nathan was out in that area last year. I think we better investigate this
His prank.
so-called.
They already
This-
arrested the people that cranked that.
Oh, okay.
They're in the Hooskow.
Yeah.
Trust me, they already got those guys.
All right, all right.
Don't look at us. We didn't do it.
The last book I read was called. Do you know the title? A Few Seconds Later, or something. It's called something like that. And it was about a what they call an EMP attack. Are y'all familiar with the EMP? Mm-hmm. It's sort of frustrating that nobody's familiar with this term, especially if you. I read the book, but apparently, if you detonate a nuclear bomb in the atmosphere, not on the ground, it'll send out this electric current, this kind of current that will completely obliterate all electronics. And this is like a known thing. Like a rogue country like North Korea or something could do way more damage to us than an actual, like, the way we imagine a nuclear war.
Right.
Because if you like 2 or 3 detonated in the atmosphere could obliterate all electronics in the United States.
That's scary.
It's very scary, very illuminating, and the thing that's so frustrating with is all the little ways they could have prepared for such a thing, but nobody. We collectively aren't preparing for such a thing. You two never even heard of the term EMP. It's an electromagnetic pulse, and the book, like the foreword, was written by Newt Gingrich and stuff, like, because they were like all dealing with this in Senate and stuff at the time. And the guy that
We use them in war.
we've used them.
The military uses those kind of things.
Oh wow. It's in video games now and stuff. Like you'll have an EMP weapon or something like. So it's
Way smaller scale, but yeah.
yeah. Apparently, it's like I've read some of that was in the book too, because if it's line of sight. So like in Iraq, I think they use something like this. But if you do it, depending how high off the ground you are, it affects a smaller area. So it's like line of sight. So if it's just like, I don't know how many feet it would be or whatever, but the higher you go, the bigger area it affects. But it's pretty fascinating to read a thing like that and just imagine. I don't. There's so many. I just came to a fork in the road with like 5 different paths to go down. But just I remember thinking a few years back, because I've been familiar with this concept for a while now, and I got a little bit of a prepper mentality, like how do you prepare for a situation like that. But I thought that it would be fun to run for mayor of Stanton on the platform that we as a community need to be prepared for an EMP.
Good grief, Mr. Cheerful's banging up the vote.
Now it's I know it seems a little depressing, but the two reasons I think it's a wonderful platform, and one is because I think every community should have a preparation for that, and or for anything like that, system failure or whatever. Like, how would Stanton as a community? I feel like it would be so. And then the other side of it is like that kind of preparation is actually can be very productive whether things don't happen.
Right.
I remember I lived on sort of a bit of a commune in New Mexico when Y2K happened. You all remember that?
Mm-hmm.
But where I lived, we thought this was going down. My landlord, Jack, at the time, was a complete, we all listened to Art Bell in the middle of the night, conspiracy theorists, hippies living in New Mexico. Y2K was coming. It was all going to crash. All the computers were going to shut down, the water treatment facilities, that nothing was going to work. And so we collectively started preparing for what was going to happen. And then Y2K came and birds were chirping, nothing happened, but we wound up with a greenhouse, with an irrigation system, like this food storage, these all these things were like upgrades to our life or whatever. So there's a little bit of like preparing for the worst that also gives you all these upgrades, like the.
No, I keep trying to think.
But I feel like it would be so healthy as a community to just collectively have our brains around what our strategy would be as a community. Like, where's our food going to come from? What are we going to do with the water? Like, yada, yada, yada. Like, I feel like it would be a healthy reckoning with our own sustainability. Like, how autonomous are we? How as a community can we survive without any outside help? And, there would be all these, we get to know who our local farmers are, who our experts are in certain fields, like all that stuff just comes to the forefront. You just realize you can't Google anything, no electricity works, yada, yada, yada. Like, and this town in the book had not prepared for such a thing. And if they had just thought about it beforehand and not been like, oh, that's depressing. Like, oh, that's, like, why are we talking about this? Because if you don't know about it, then you can't
Right.
prepare. And if you're not prepared, then it gets really bad really quick. Like, it was by day 3, all the food's gone out of the store. Like, the grocery stores are empty by the end of the second day.
Now, is this thing so you say electricity stops too, or just like electronic?
All of it.
Stuff? 'Cause I was,
Even the only cars that ran were like before in the 70s, like really old cars that had no computer chips, no electronics. But if it has if it's just like combustion engine, that works. But like any cars from the 80s on, they're all just dead in the.
But so if that happened, like that would set us back to what, like the 1890s or something? When did
Pretty.
like when did we get electricity? I guess it's I don't know how old is electricity? I mean, so if nobody died, no buildings were gone, it would take a lot of effort, but we could survive.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure these scientists or creators would, come up with some other. It just kills everything that's right then, or you can't even make something new
You could make something new, but you wouldn't know how. Like, Stanton couldn't. We're not going to.
No, like if say all of our phones died, couldn't Apple or whatever within a couple of months have a brand new one out that ran on something different, or that would be gone too.
I mean, yeah, in another country, because it's a localized event. So if it happened to America over in China or whatever, they'd still be able to make stuff. But the scale of what everyone's going through, the EMP is so fascinating because nobody would die immediately if one was exploded in the atmosphere right now. And the thing that's crazy about EMPs, I think is crazy, is like in the book, they were just shot off of freighter ships. They came up next to the United States, shot them up in the air, then blew up the ships. Nobody knew who did it. It's not like if Russia attacks us with nukes, we attack back, and that's conventional. And there's not much concern that's going to happen because it's such a suicide move for anybody. But for these rogue places, you got North Korea and stuff like that. They just sort of could come in on the sly. It's a very frightening proposition. But if it explodes in the atmosphere above us, all of a sudden, like all the cars in the street would just come to a stop. All electricity would be gone, and and there you are. No way to find out what happened. No way to find out what's going on anywhere else in the world. There'd be a few little old cars putting around or whatever. But it's I don't know. It's pretty interesting stuff. I was thinking about you in terms of what you said, like, because reading this book and thinking about us talking about it and stuff like that, because it's like where you are in your life. I don't know if this is like a thing I need to say delicately or not.
Yeah, not really. Not to me.
But it wouldn't necessarily interest you to, like, the preparing for such a thing wouldn't be much of a concern to you, I would imagine.
No.
But that might be part of your spirit too. Like, even when you're younger, you might not have.
Well, I would try to live as long as I could.
Well, if it happened, but the idea of preparing for
Oh,
something like that.
Well, I think one reason people don't know about it or talk about it is it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can only be scared too much. And if you get too scared for too often, you're not happy.
Right.
And it's no way to live.
Right.
People should not be living scared.
Amen.
And there's lots of things to be scared about, and we are scared about some, and some of them sneak up on us. Some of them we should have been scared of, like all that alcohol I drank. It never was mean to me. It just killed my liver and my kidneys, but he was nice every night. So some things you ought to be scared of, you don't even know you ought to be scared of. But
Right.
you just can't end up being too scared. And
I think
what
that's
you
so
just
important.
said is what you just said is real scary. And I don't really like to think about it either because, even though I'm at the end of my illustrious career, I got people I love that are just starting out, and I want them to keep on being able to do that.
Right.
So when you talk about something that drastic, that affects a whole lot of people I love, and so, yeah, that's scary. And I don't like being scary.
Right.
So maybe instead of calling it a prepare for EPM, you should just, that shouldn't be your slogan. It should be like, get to know your local farmers. And,
It could just be like local sustainability,
Yeah.
self-reliance.
just for the good of yourself, not to save your life if the world goes terrible.
I would like to think Stanton has some kind of plan in place, but it seems like we should know that as citizens if it existed. And what
Well,
actually is in
definitely.
that plan would be
Yeah,
fascinating to see.
That would be a good discussion topic.
But there's so many things we could do as a community to be ready for a thing like that we probably aren't doing, and that's sort of a shame because it would. I doubt we have a stockpile of food or any that kind of stuff.
But it's so hard to plan for. I remember when I was a kid, every year they would, at school, you'd have like a day, like go home with your parents and set up with the fire escape route, have a recorded rope ladder and stuff. We give that stuff to my parents. That's a good idea. We never, if there had been a fire, we would all been running around. We didn't have any set plan. But every year you'd see things, commercials on TV. My mom was like, "That's a good idea." Never a word mentioned it. And it would have taken what, like 2 minutes. Like, if something happens, you go here and go out this. It's just hell's bells when it comes. Hope you can get out.
Right.
Or even like fire alarm. One time, when I worked in Richmond, they would have there was like 500 people in this 5-story building, and they would have fire alarms. So we had to go practice fire alarms, and they used to let you work with headphones on. And one time I'm up there just going to town working, and I don't even hear the fire alarms go off. So my phone starts ringing and it lights up, and I pick it. It's my wife. She's like, "Where are you?" I'm like, "What? Wait a minute, something's going on." She's like, "Everybody's outside, the firearms are going off. You're the only one that's not in here." So I said, "All right, I'm going to leave." And the first thing I thought, which they always tell you don't, I say, I got to get to the elevator.
No.
And before she hangs up, she goes, "And don't get on the elevator." I'm like, "Oh my God, thank goodness you told me." I was getting ready to get on it, right down into the fire. Like stuff you even know, you just forget about, when...
There's a word for that. You call it panic.
Yeah.
It's a panic.
Panic.
But like, do y'all have an escape route? Do you know what you would do in a fire?
Yeah, we have a little ladder for.
Man, you are good.
Well, our bedroom is all the way up in the attic.
Okay.
So that's a concern of ours. What if a fire started down here? That there's only one way out. So Catherine bought a cool little ladder that you throw out, put in the windowsill and throw down. But because we have to figure out how we're going to get Percy down and stuff like that. So I think he's got a little harness. We're prepared for all kinds of stuff. We are a couple of preppers. The fun thing for prepping for me is that there's this wonderful, the Venn diagram of prepping for the end of the world and camping gear is, it's a huge I have, it's two of my fun passions overlap really splendidly.
Perfect.
It's like,
That's convenient, isn't it?
I get to use all my prepping stuff just to make amazing meals on my rocket stove and stuff like that, little ways of generating cooking and filtering water and all that kind of stuff.
It's funny you mentioned getting the pets out, because now I can't. Remember those huge storms over New Jersey like 10 years ago? The Sandy. Yeah.
Yep.
And where we lived, it was like the house was shaking. I thought the house was going to come down, and just huge trees like in the front yard just falling. It was like the scariest thing I've ever been through. So we had a old dog then that would not go down in the basement. It just would fight you. And so my wife's like, look, we gotta get in the basement. So we get all the cats, we get the other dogs, and then God would start crying. So I said, Buttercup's. Big Mama's not gonna go down in the basement. And my wife's like, all right, then we just got to stay up here together. So we just laid on the floor. She wouldn't
Big
go.
Mama was a dog?
Yeah.
She wouldn't go to the basement?
No, so my wife wouldn't go to the basement because she wouldn't leave one of the dogs up there. So we just laid on the floor and trees are and falling all around us. And I personally was like, man, Big Mama's going to have to fend for herself a little bit while we go down there.
Wow, so y'all stayed upstairs with Big Mama?
I thought that was very sweet, though, that she's like, no, we're not going without her.
Oh, how about that?
I have no comment.
Yeah, what you thinking over there, Dad?
He'd have opened the basement door and threw her down there. Get down there.
Or a leash.
John Huggins, good to see you.
Hey, John.
A rocket stove is a brilliant thing. I'm with you 100%. I love my rocket stove so much. Josh Sadler, welcome to the show. He says, building local self-reliance is ideal, regardless if it's out of hope or fear. But I agree, Steve, fear has its limits. Well said.
Josh.
Now, let's say we could. No, that's not a good question. Like, how long do you think if Stanton shut down and you could load up your camper, how long do you think you could live out there?
Out in the country with the camper? Forever.
Like, what would you eat and stuff? Like, would you come into town at night and raid people's?
Well, there's hunting. I mean, I guess we'd load up all the grains, all the stuff we have here that would buy us time to then be hunting. We watch Alone a lot. All these shows. There's all these shows just for.
But have you ever been hunting? Do you know how to? Where would you get a gun and stuff?
Oh, we're armed.
Oh, okay. Man, would you know how to gut and skin a deer and all that stuff?
Oh yeah, I've never done it though.
I guess that's not too hard to.
Right.
With your hands shaking from hunger.
And there's other members of our team.
Oh.
You guys are welcome to join us, our clan. But we all have different skills.
Yeah, we got deer skinners.
Yeah, we got deer skinners. Yeah.
Mule
Yeah,
skinners.
100%.
Man.
Yeah, we're out of time.
So, was this a science fiction type book or like a Tom Clancy, like spy novel type thing?
It was more of like a military guy.
Right.
I remember being like halfway through the book and I was like, oh, this is not like a author that found a story. This is like a military guy that was like, I should write a book about this, which is a whole different vibe. There's like, he's not. I'm not like, wow, what a great written line that is. It's like a whole nother genre or something. But he thought it was important for people to. It's it's definitely an entertaining read. It's fascinating. I feel like I have endless more stuff I could ramble on about that, but we're out of time. Thank goodness. You guys are lucky. But if you have any prepping questions, it's definitely a field that I find fascinating. Just I just love all the stuff. You learn about canning, you learn about preserving food, like all this stuff. A lot of it is really just sort of a foxfire study of how people used to live without the modern technology.
There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's great.
Yeah, it's definitely. I guess the last thing I'll say about it is, for me, I'm a prepper to falling on the hope side of things, it's not because I'm afraid of things. It's because if something happens, I'm surviving that.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. I like that. And I feel I've always, I never thought you had a problem with it or anything. But it's like anything else. You can get too involved with it where it can just take over your thought process. And I don't see that happening. So
Right. Right.
I think that's one thing that it helps with my mind. Is you know, I could easily be mentally ill if I stayed any one place for very long. I always used to say I never could get addicted to one thing because I was always switching to something else. So I usually had 4 or 5 addictions, which end up spreading out and not getting you too far down.
Right.
It's just when you get focused on 1 or 2 things
Right.
that I think you're unhealthy. So if you have your addictions spread out, and I say addictions, but your habits, things
Your
you're
focus.
interested, your focus should be not just on one thing all that. So if you're a survivalist and that's everything you think about,
Right. That's
then
Not
that's,
healthy-
that's
healthy.
not fun to be around.
right.
You're not a good date. So there you go.
That'd be a good song. I went on a date. I went to dinner with a survivalist, and he wasn't a good date.
I was gonna play this brand new song I wrote that I'm really psyched about, but I feel like I got so many songs that are more appropriate for the conversation. I should probably dip into the. Been broke down in Bakersfield. I dealt with the devil and knew the deal. I'm no saint, but I know how it feels to have an angel love you for real. Strange world, you're almost gone. Ferris wheels flying, everybody hold on. Everybody's right, nobody's wrong. I could prove it, but it would take too long. Okay, what am I forgetting? Who besides me have I not forgiven? What on earth am I doing for a living? I've been prepping for Armageddon. Yeah, I'm getting ready for the end of the world. I'm getting ready for the end of the world. I'm getting ready for the end of the world. I'm getting ready for the end of the world. Now I feel like I've seen this before. Looked out that window, walked out that door. Back before my time, before the war. Danced across this very floor. Now here's this burning book in hand. I read the whole thing, don't understand. I mean, back when God first thought of man, is the whole thing going according to plan? I guess I'm giving as good as I'm getting. I'm pretty sure I'm going to heaven. Paradise 7 come 11. I've been prepping for Armageddon. Yeah, I'm getting ready for the end of the world. I'm getting ready for the end of the world. I'm getting ready for the end of the world. I'm getting ready for the end of the world. Take it, Remy. Now I'm not sure what I think I see. It's not like the dogs have been loosed on me, unless there's some crazy conspiracy where the sheep are wolves and the wolves are sheep. Devil, I tell you, has no face. He's never in any one particular place. It's sheen like cruising at the speed of space. Doesn't really matter who wins the race. Pies in the window, hunger is a hidden. The only truth tellers will only be kidding. He's with her, she came to the wedding. I've been prepping for Armageddon. Yeah, I'm getting ready for the end of the world. I'm getting ready for the end of the world. I'm getting ready for the end of the world. I'm getting ready for the end of the world. Now some vote normal, some vote absurd. Me, I voted for that little bird who's just flying along till he thought he heard someone speaking an honest word. And some don't think we need a revolution, think patience is the best solution. Some don't believe in evolution. I think patience is another form of air pollution. Now, I'm not saying we should be forbidden from being content with the lot we're given. Maybe you're happy, I say go get a meat. I've been prepping for Armageddon. Yeah, I'm getting ready for the end of the world. I'm getting ready for the end of the world. I'm getting ready for the end of the world. I'm getting ready for the end of the everybody. I'm getting ready for the end of the world. I'm getting ready for the end of the world. I'm getting ready for the end of the world. I'm getting ready for the end of the world. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching, everybody.
Wow,
We love you,
that was awesome.
and we'll see you next time.
Damn right.
Now I'll play you guys a song I really wanted to. I got a new one that's nice,
I like
but it
that
did
one.
not fit with the conversation. Yeah, that's a good. That'll be a good gypsy jazz one.
That was a good
I
leaving
can hear your
song.
bass
for
walking all over that one, Lex.
That was perfect. Woo! So we're off now.
Yeah, the final shot is up. That's fun.
That was a good one. Wow. I hadn't really heard